right, very first topic, solving equations, one of the most important topics you're going to cover all year because these equations you're going to see all throughout the year, interwoven between many different topics. Okay, first starting off with solving. Okay, let's just say I've got an equation and it says x plus 9 equals 13. Okay, well my goal is to get that x by itself. That's called isolating, okay, or isolate the variable. So our goal is to get x by itself. Okay, we've got two sides to our equation. We've got a left side, we've got a right side. That x happens to be on the left. So what we want to do is get rid of this 9. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called the inverse of adding. That is subtraction. Okay, sometimes we say opposite. Okay, but it's really the inverse. We're going to subtract that 9 from this side to get rid of it from that side. Now x is by itself. However, because we subtracted the 9 on one side, to balance everything, we have to do it on the other side. Okay, now we subtract 13 minus 9, and we get 4. And there is our solution. Okay, when we solve, again, we have the variable isolated. Okay, so now let's just say I've got 3x equals 15. Okay, well this time, it's not x plus 9, it's 3 times x. So what's actually happening here is there's multiplication here. And we want to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we divide the 3 to get rid of it and isolate the variable. Okay, we divide by 3 on both sides. If I divide by 3 over 3, that actually equals 1. So this becomes a 1. But if we have a 1, we don't have to write it, and we just put x. Now x is isolated, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. And there is our solutions. So the key thing when you solve is that we want to do the inverse of what you have in your equation to get that x by itself. So if I start off again, this is called inverse. So if I see a plus, that means I'm going to subtract. If I see subtract, then I'm going to add. Okay, if I see multiplication, which would be something like that, with where you have a variable right next to a number, then I'm going to divide. If I see divide, okay, where you might see a number on the bottom, then I'll do again the inverse, which is multiply. Now in this particular topic, you're not going to have to do this, but later on you will. If I see a square, the inverse of square is to square root. And if I see square root, the inverse of square root is to square. Okay, and that's something you'll have to do later on. And eventually this will give us a solution. And now the definition of a solution, it's an answer that makes the equation true when you substitute sorry for my misspelling, it back in. When you substitute it back in, I'll show you what that means. So over here, let's go back. We found the solution was 4. We plug it back in. So I'm going to substitute the 4 for the x. So where the 4 was, I'm going to replace it with where the x was, I'm going to replace it with that 4. And now if I add 4 plus 9, that equals 13, and that makes the equation true. So then that's how I know that's the solution. Same thing here with the 5. Remember, if I substitute the 5 back into the x, now we do 3 times 5. Well, 3 times 5 is 15. So that also makes the equation true, and that was the goal. Okay, find the solution that if I plugged it back in, that it would make the equation true. And also, just a tip, that is how you check your answers this way, by plugging it back in. So if you're ever not sure if you got something right, plug it back into your equation, and that's how you can check it, okay? Now as we're going through this, I like to do some highlighting, so just keep that in mind. Have a highlighter ready if you want to follow along with some highlighters, okay? All right, so first step, again, we want to make sure we stay organized as you guys going through this, all right? Stay organized to make sure that you're not making any mistakes. Okay, the inverse of plus 4 is minus 4. And remember, I need to do that on both sides. So now I'm going to go over to the like term, okay, which is 16, and we subtract from there. Okay, That cancels the 4. And then on this side, we're going to do 16 minus 4, which is 12. And then we're also going to do the inverse, okay, of 3x. That's a positive 3, so we'll do minus 3x on both sides. That cancels the 3x. Now we have all the x's on one side. We're going to do 7x minus 3x, that's 4x. All right, and now we almost have x isolated. We first got rid of this kind of ones term. Now we've got all our x terms on this side, and the last step is to get rid of that 4. Same way we divided the 3, we're going to divide the 4 on both sides. Okay, the inverse of that, inverse of multiplication was division. Divide by 4, we get 3, and that's our solution. Okay, so again, the key thing is always do the inverse. If you see plus, make sure you subtract. And if you see minus, then you're going to add. Okay, and then in the last step here, we had to do division. Okay. I'm just highlighting the steps. So anything that we add or subtract, I do in pink. Anything where we divide or multiply, we're going to do in orange. Okay. All right, same thing here. Minus 7, minus 7, minus 4x, minus 4x. These two terms in the middle cancel. What's key here is notice that I'm canceling the 1 on this side, but I'm canceling the x on this side. You do not want to cancel both of the numbers on the right or both the numbers on the left. Okay, so I don't want to cancel the 6 and the 4, and I don't want to cancel the 7 and the 11. Okay, I want to cancel opposite terms or different terms, because again, what we're doing by doing the inverse of plus 7 is we're basically moving that over to the right side, and by doing the inverse of 4x, we're moving that to the left. Okay, so 6x minus 4x, we get 2x. 11 minus 7, we get 4. And again, we need to divide here by 2. So x equals 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Okay, again, we had to do the inverse here. Inverse of adding or positive is a subtract. And then we get our solution, x equals 2. Okay, 2 more questions here for the 6-point version of this topic. All right. So again, same steps. First, we subtract 16, subtract 16, subtract 6x, subtract 6x. Okay. Right here, this is going to cancel. So is the 6. Now here, if you don't see anything, you guys know that's a 1. So we're basically doing 1 minus 6x. That's negative 5x. And then we're doing negative 19 minus 16. Okay, just remember, that's not 3. Okay, so if you need to, we're going to use the calculator, and we're going to do negative 19 minus 16. So you're actually adding those together to get a larger negative. Okay, next step, inverse of multiplication is to divide the negative 5 on both sides. And now we get a negative over a negative, becomes positive. Okay, so this will be 35 divided by 5, which is positive 7. A little highlighting just to emphasize what we are doing here. Okay. All right, and then the last one here, we've got minus 8, minus 8, minus 11x, minus 11x. Notice how all of these are positive. All the ones that I have to cancel are positive, but again, if these were negative, I would add instead. 8 minus 8 is 0, 11 minus 11x is 0. Okay, 5x minus 11, that's negative 6x. Negative 16 minus 8, that's negative 24. By the way, that's an 8. Then we divide by negative 6. And remember, we want to divide the same sign so that it cancels out. Okay, because we want it to be positive, so we need to do negative divide by negative. And this will be 24 over 6, which is 4. And that is how you solve your 6-point equation.